A young woman who relies on a wheelchair has always placed her unwavering trust in her mother to care for her. However, one fateful day, she begins to harbor suspicions that her mother is concealing a perilous secret, one that could dramatically alter the trajectory of her life. What hidden truth is her mother keeping? Join us as we explore this intriguing narrative filled with suspense and emotional depth. Without further delay, let's dive into the film and discover what unfolds in this captivating story. The movie commences with Diane Sherman giving birth to her daughter, who arrives prematurely. The infant is frail and unresponsive as doctors work tirelessly to save her life. In a separate room, Diane lies in bed, fervently praying for her baby's survival, her heart heavy with anxiety. Once the medical team stabilizes the newborn, Diane finally gets to hold her and anxiously inquires about her well-being, her maternal instincts kicking in as she seeks reassurance. Later, during a support group for mothers, another participant shares her emotional struggles in caring for her child, her voice trembling with vulnerability. When it's Diane's turn to speak, she appears disinterested, distracted by her phone, seemingly detached from the emotional atmosphere around her. She briefly mentions that her daughter Chloe is on the verge of starting college, a milestone that should be celebrated. Diane reflects on the past 17 years, explaining how she has devoted her life entirely to Chloe's well-being, neglecting her own desires for travel or romance. The group leader commends Chloe for her bravery and resilience in overcoming her disabilities, highlighting the strength of their bond. Every morning, at precisely 6:45 a.m., Chloe awakens and navigates her wheelchair, beginning her day with a series of routines that have become second nature to her. She starts by using the restroom, applying cream to her skin rashes, taking her medication, and utilizing a chairlift to descend the stairs. Meanwhile, Diane prepares breakfast while monitoring Chloe's insulin levels, which are slightly elevated. Before Diane can administer Chloe's insulin shot, Chloe insists on doing it herself, asserting her independence. Diane assists Chloe with her physical therapy and academic lessons, fostering a nurturing environment despite the underlying tension. Later, when the mailman arrives, Chloe eagerly rushes to retrieve the mail, but Diane has already collected it, a small but significant act that leaves Chloe feeling frustrated. Although Chloe feels short of breath, she reassures Diane that she is fine when offered an inhaler, masking her discomfort. Diane promises to deliver any college acceptance letters to Chloe immediately, but advises her to concentrate on her studies for the time being. Afterward, Diane tends to her garden, using fresh tomatoes for dinner, a small ritual that brings her joy. She checks Chloe's insulin levels again, finds them low, and gives her some chocolate as a treat, a moment of sweetness in their otherwise complicated relationship. That evening, Chloe immerses herself in videos about the University of Washington, excited about the prospect of college and the independence it represents. So engrossed is she that she barely responds to her mother's questions, lost in her dreams of the future. Later, while working on her 3D printer, Chloe becomes frustrated when it malfunctions. She tells Diane that if she had an iPhone, she could troubleshoot the issue, a comment that Diane laughs off, dismissing Chloe's frustration. Diane administers Chloe's evening medication and retreats to the basement to enjoy some wine while watching old home videos, seeking solace in nostalgia. The following morning, Chloe observes her mother unpacking groceries outside, a mundane task that suddenly feels significant. When Diane steps away to take a phone call, Chloe seizes the opportunity to sneak some chocolates from the bags, indulging in a small act of rebellion. She also stumbles upon a bottle of pills bearing Diane's name. Diane claims the pills are hers, explaining that her previous medication provider went out of business and that the label is merely a printing error. Although Chloe feels skeptical, she chooses not to press the matter further, sensing the tension in the air. The next day, Chloe secretly skips her medication, using a makeshift tool to retrieve the pill bottle from a high shelf, a sign of her growing determination. Once again, she attempts to collect the mail, but Diane consistently beats her to it, further fueling Chloe's frustration. Alone, Chloe inspects the pills labeled trioxane. After peeling off her name from the label, she discovers Diane's name underneath, leading her to realize that Diane has been administering unnecessary medication to her. From that point on, Chloe pretends to take her pills but discreetly spits them out, a silent act of defiance against her mother's control. That night, while Diane sleeps, Chloe attempts to search for information about trioxane online, but the internet is down. Unbeknownst to her, Diane has secretly arranged for the internet to be disconnected, further isolating Chloe. Later, Diane questions Chloe about her internet activity, and Chloe lies, claiming she was merely researching her 3D printer issues. Desperate for answers, Chloe tries to make phone calls but is repeatedly hung up on, as the recipients believe it is Diane calling. Eventually, she reaches a stranger and persuades him to look up the drug. The man informs her that trioxane is a heart medication, but the pills she possesses are green, while trioxane should be red. This revelation leaves Chloe even more confused and anxious, deepening her sense of entrapment. One day, Diane and Chloe go to the movies, a rare outing that should be enjoyable. Chloe feigns the need to use the restroom, but instead sneaks out to a nearby pharmacy, driven by her need for answers. She cuts in line and inquires about the green pills, her heart racing with anticipation. Initially, the pharmacist is reluctant to assist, but when Chloe fabricates a story about a scavenger hunt, the pharmacist reveals that the pills are a muscle relaxant intended for dogs, not humans. Overwhelmed by panic, Chloe has a meltdown, her world crashing down around her. Just then, Diane appears, injects Chloe with insulin, and takes her home. Later, Diane is shown in the shower, revealing deep scars on her back, a glimpse into her troubled past. She then contacts the pharmacy, vehemently denying that she would ever give her daughter animal medication, and begins researching poisons, her desperation palpable. Chloe awakens in her locked room and manages to pick the lock, only to find the door blocked. She ties together electric cords, fills her mouth with water, climbs out the window, and uses her soldering iron to weaken the glass by spitting water on it while heating it. After breaking the window, she climbs back inside but starts to suffocate. Desperate, she crawls to her inhaler and attempts to use her lift, only to discover that the power is off. In a moment of desperation, she throws herself down the stairs, injuring herself but discovering she can move her toe, a small victory in her fight for freedom. Chloe tries to escape in her wheelchair, but accidentally rolls into the path of an oncoming truck. The driver stops and assists her, offering a glimmer of hope. Diane arrives shortly after, and the man grows suspicious, asking Chloe if she wants to go to the police or the hospital. Chloe expresses her desire to go to the police, but Diane injects the man with insulin, knocking him out, and Chloe faints from the stress, her world spiraling further out of control. Chloe awakens locked in the basement, where she finds her college acceptance letters discarded in the trash, baby pictures of herself walking, and a death certificate for a baby named Chloe who lived only 2 hours. A newspaper article reveals that a baby was stolen from a hospital, leading Chloe to realize that Diane kidnapped her after losing her own child. In a flashback, Diane is shown grieving over her deceased baby and then watching other newborns in the hospital, her heart aching with loss. She abducted Chloe to replace her lost child, a twisted act of desperation. When Diane enters the basement, Chloe confronts her, demanding to know if she was ever truly sick. Diane breaks down, insisting that everything she did was to protect Chloe. She pleads with Chloe to return to their previous life, but Chloe refuses, her resolve strengthening. In a moment of desperation, Diane attempts to poison Chloe with a mixture of paint thinner and drugs. Chloe locks herself in a closet, but Diane eventually breaks down the door. In a final act of defiance, Chloe threatens to take a lethal dose of pills, swallowing a handful before collapsing. Diane panics and tries to save her but ultimately fails, forcing her to take Chloe to the hospital, where doctors manage to save her life. In the hospital, Diane begs the doctors to allow her to take Chloe home, but they refuse, recognizing the signs of abuse and manipulation. Chloe tries to alert the medical staff by writing a note, but an emergency diverts their attention. Seizing the opportunity, Diane abducts Chloe again in the elevator, promising never to harm her again, her desperation evident. However, the hospital staff soon realizes Chloe is missing. Diane attempts to drag Chloe down the escalator, but Chloe resists using her legs, fighting for her freedom. In a desperate move, Diane pulls out a gun, but before she can shoot, a police officer intervenes, shooting Diane and causing her to tumble down the stairs, her reign of control finally coming to an end. Fast forward 7 years, and Chloe is now driving herself to visit Diane, who is bedridden and unwell, a stark contrast to the controlling figure she once was. Although Chloe's legs are partially functional, she still relies on a wheelchair for mobility. During the visit, Chloe discreetly spits out 3 trioxane pills and tells Diane that it's time to go home, implying that she will now take care of Diane, just as Diane once controlled her. This poignant moment signifies a powerful shift in their dynamic, as Chloe embraces her newfound strength and independence, ready to reclaim her life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more contents like this.